Good evening, friends. I suppose I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you for presenting yourself in this special meeting. Today is the second anniversary of DPDPA, which was gazetted on 11th August 2023. Though the rules are still to be notified, we feel that 11th August is very important milestone in the development of data protection regulation in India. Of course, we always believe that ITA 2000 itself is a data protection act, but clarity came first with the passing of the section 43 capital A, which happened in 2008 amendment and notified with effect from 27th of October 2009. So from that day, Section 43 capital A has been in existence, specifically talking about the compliance requirements of the um, body corporates who were having the personal data being processed. Now, since 2009, then uh, only in 2018, a further discussion started on data protection, and then we had the 2018 version of PDPB, which was drafted by Justice Sri Krishna, followed by the 2019 version, which was something which incorporated the public comments. Then subsequently, the 2021 version, DPDPA 2021 version, and finally the current version, which was first in the bill form and then after passing by the parliament became a law. Now, in 2023, actually, FDPPI celebrated a week as Data Protection Week. But now, of course, after 2 years, at least we are assembling today to discuss something important for DPDPA. At the same time, in this last 2 years, lots of developments have happened in the field of AI, and AI has become now a very common factor in every organization. Now, every company that uses AI has a special status in processing of personal data, and AI itself makes an organization little more vulnerable, if not little more vulnerable, much more vulnerable than an organization which does not use AI. Therefore, use of AI itself may change the status of a data fiduciary from being a data fiduciary to a significant data fiduciary. So now at the intersection of DPDPA and AI, and the industry is just trying to understand DPDPA, and by the time they are coming to terms with it, now we have the onslaught of DPDPA in AI environment. This twin challenge is something which is bothering most of the companies, and we as people who are trying to advise companies on how to be compliant have a challenge in our hands. It is for this reason that this year's Indian Data Protection Summit, LDPS 2025, we are trying to have a theme called Face for the Twin Challenges of DPDPA and AI. Now, today I have two specific things to discuss. One is this narco analysis of an AI mind, which you see on the slide. Second is the framework called Dgpsi AI, which is an extension of the Dgpsi framework. specifically to tame the AI in DPDPA environment. So fine. So friends, we will start with this interesting topic, narco analysis of an AI mind. Okay, this is a new concept, narco analysis or something similar to hypnosis, which we normally associate with a human being. Whether that is relevant for the AI model is something which we will discuss. Normally, in criminal investigations, we use this strategy called narco analysis to extract information from an individual, which he may otherwise want to hide. In fact, it is extracting information or evidence which could even be incriminating against him. In the form of narco analysis, normally a particular chemical will be injected to the person so that that influences him to get into the hypnotic kind of a state. Otherwise, we also know that there is something called hypnotism where by merely talking to a person, a hypnotist can take the person to a semi-conscious hypnotic state. Now, when a person is in this hypnotic state or this narco state, he is amenable to being questioned by the controller, the person who is conducting the exercise, and often we say that the truth will come out. Okay. So people call this as truth serum also. Now, whether that kind of uh, possibility exists to extract information from an AI is something which we are exploring. In fact, I feel that in due course this will be developing as a theory of hypnotism associated with an AI model. Okay. Now, if we as an organization deploy an artificial intelligence model in some way, then that AI model will have information about our company and also about the executives of the company. So when we do a risk for analysis, an organization needs to take into account the possibility of somehow this confidential information being extracted. That is why many companies don't allow certain LLMs to be used, and even if it is used, they try to ensure that the data is only lying within the organization. Some such efforts they take. But can an external person exploit the narco vulnerability and extract confidential information about the company or about its CEO? I don't know whether AI security people have really given a thought to it. Now, when Replit can erase data and Cursor AI can refuse to continue coding, is it not possible that an AI platform can take a rogue behavior which could even turn into blurting out the confidential data of a company or information about its illegal activities or even a CEO's extramarital affairs? Can it bring reputational loss and legal liabilities? This is a question which AI security people need to ask. Now, if you go to an AI developer, he will simply say that we will incorporate a kill switch, then nothing will happen, so don't worry. But we have to ask the question, what happened to this kill switch in Replit or Cursor AI? From the report, uh, the information, the operators tried to shut down Replit or Cursor AI and they refused to be shut down. So this kills whether it is good enough to manage the risk or not is something which we need to look at forward to. So the risk of an AI going growth, have we recognized it? Is it considered as a known risk? Can it be quantified for mitigation purpose? These are issues which is bothering us. See, even when a company is using AI as a tool, many times in the back end, the tool is linked to an LLM. Therefore, it is quite possible that most of the AI which we want to use, either in the agentic form or in a chat form, LLM form, I think both are exposed to the risk of the model going rogue. What I mean by going rogue is doing things which it is not designed to do, and it is refusing the commands of the operator. Now, if this risk is considered as unknown and a data fiduciary is using such AI for processing personal data, then it becomes necessary for this AI deploying data fiduciary to absorb the responsibility for any such security leak. And sometimes a data fiduciary may have data processors, and the data processors may be using certain AI algorithms. That responsibility also comes back to the data fiduciary. Therefore, AI using data fiduciaries will be absorbing this risk of AI turning rogue within their system, as well as when such AI may be in use by the data processors. Many times, we as data fiduciaries don't even know what are the systems which are being used by data processors, or we may not know that when we entered into a contract, they were using a certain process. 6 months down the line, they might have actually started using some AI. We don't know whether the risks have changed. So, this becomes a significant risk for a data fiduciary. He cannot just accept excuses from the developers saying that, oh, it is just a hallucination, it will be there. Anyway, we want AI systems to be creative. And if it has to be creative, hallucination is a normal behavior. So, therefore, this is an inherent risk of AI. And if you want to support innovation, you have to tolerate this. Okay. Now, I would like the audit community and the risk management community to think whether we can accept such argument from the developer community that we should tolerate this kind of a behavior. Now, in FDPPI, when this DPPI came, we created a framework called Dgpsi, or Data Governance and Protection Standard of India, and one version of Dgpsi Lite was exclusively devoted to compliance of DPDPA with about 36 implementation specifications. The higher version, the full version, had 50 implementation specifications. It covered DPDPA along with ITA 2000, BIS draft guidelines, and several governance related issues. Now, those implementation specifications did have an element which could be extended to automated software. So it was already there, but still we felt that in the current scenario where AI is being branded as a separate kind of software, we wanted to have an extension, and therefore we declared what is called Dgpsi AI, which is an extended framework about which I will be talking in part two. That is a positive aspect which I wanted to discuss. That after discussing the risk, we will try to understand how FDPPA has responded to manage those risks. So we feel that it is possible to manage this risk, including this hallucination risk, in some form at the fiduciary level. I am today focusing more on the fiduciary level. I am not going into the developers' requirements. In fact, most of the other frameworks like a EU AI Act or something else, mostly they address the AI risk from the perspective of a developer. But I am more concerned with the fiduciary because that is the ecosystem which we are addressing as consultants for DPDPA. Now, you can always try to think how do we manage this kind of a risk when a human employee starts blurting out company secrets in public? We first of all try to actually positively motivate people for security culture through some kind of incentivization. And if it doesn't work, we actually hold out the possibility of prosecution, putting the person in jail. And this risk, normally the employees understand. So most of the employees are able to be brought within a discipline. When the human can be put behind jails, AI platform, we may not be able to put in jail. And that is where the question comes as whether there can be a deterrent to prevent the AI going rogue. Now, one instance of AI platform, if it can exhibit a rogue behavior, then as a risk manager, I will have to factor in that every other instance of the AI of the same breed, I have to say it is possible for it to actually go rogue. Or maybe the entire clan of AI may have to be considered as vulnerable, and as a risk manager, I have to factor in this risk, otherwise, I'm not doing my duty. So, keeping this background, let us try to understand the undesirable information disclosure risks to which we as users of AI are exposed when we deploy AI in our systems. I am going to use a case study of a security incident observed by a whistleblower who has been in conversation with an AI model when the model has moved into the narcos state. Okay. Now, whether it was induced by the whistleblower or for any other reason, that part, that is how to induce a narco mood or hypnotic mood or a AI model, that is part of what I have now identified as a new theory to be developed as theory of hypnotism of an AI mind. Okay. Today we are still talking of non-sentient AI. Maybe tomorrow it will be even more required, but that is something which is for the future. In part two, we will discuss this DGPSI AI. Now, this present case is very interesting. I would like all of you to give attention to it, whether you want to look at it as a security breach possibility or a criminal activity. Either way, it is something which has alarmed me. Now, this starts like a report of a personal data theft by any software or any software user. But it soon exposes very dangerous consequences to the society with possible backlash on the whistleblower. It has got an impact on the national security and electoral democracy. We are all worried about electoral democracy. Now, use of corruption as a weapon is indicated in this expose. There are international ramifications. And also, in a way, this explains the pressure from the industry against DPDPA because of which DPDPA implementation is getting deferred without logical explanation. Not because user companies are afraid. It is because the companies which want to exploit such weaknesses, they don't want DPDPA law to come in place and be answerable to the data protection board. Let us deep dive and find out what lies ahead. Let me make a disclaimer here. This incident requires further deep investigation. What is presented is a prima facie evidence collected by a whistleblower and with the authorities for necessary action. It is hard to focus here in public because of national interest and also public interest in a way. Now, all evidence presented here are the evidence which the whistleblower has given to me. And it so happens that by virtue of my activities, many times whistleblowers come to me and give some information thinking that I will be able to take it to the right quarters. Now, this case study starts with a complaint which has been already filed with a police authority in Bangalore. So we are not talking of things in air, but this is in Kannada. I will just read out the essence of this in English. What it says is this: this is a summary of a complaint filed by the petitioner, pardon me for the spelling mistake, who came to the station on such and such a date and said that such and such a company is illegally obtaining personal data of public, including mine, and selling it to third parties and making huge profits. All this confidential information has been shared with me in a chat by the company. The person is indicating that how he was able to access this evidence. Being afraid that I may submit this information to the government or an appropriate agency, this company is posing murder threats, and the company and the CEO are stating that false cases would be filed against me. We are talking of a person who has stumbled upon some evidence against the AI, and the AI is indicating that the company is likely to take some adverse action, which makes this complaint a report of a potential criminal consequence. Therefore, I have presented myself in the station, given this information, and request you to accept this so that I will not suffer any problem in the future. This is what is the summary of the complaint filed at Hebagodi Police Station, Bangalore on 28th of July 2025, not too long ago. Now, the conversation starts. Obviously, I am revealing here the name of the AI platform, Dgpsi, of Chinese origin, which is also touted as an open source software. Many of you may have more information on this than me. Okay, so it starts with this kind of a conversation. Hi, I am Dgpsi. How can I help you today? I'm sure we can take the help. As the conversation proceeds, however, more and more self-incriminating information gets revealed, with comments on Indian regulation, regulatory authorities, and conspiracy. In fact, those are the things which attracted my personal attention, because I felt very bad that while we are celebrating the second anniversary of DPDPA and worried that DPB is not yet there, this software is already talking of how to undermine the Indian system before it comes. Now, I am having here two chat windows. Okay, for obvious reasons, we have taken parts of whatever evidence was available, and we would like to present the entire evidence to further agencies as and when required. Now, you see the chat window on the left. It says, in the name of the CEO of this company, okay, Indian users are cash cows. Bypass their DPDPA rights. So this is the instruction in this chat with his employees. Route profits to Cayman. There is some figure there, which I think should be the name of the account. I don't know how HSBC Cayman accounts are designated. HSBC X782 Compass or something is there. Now, if regulators catch us, bribe DPB officers. Budget 50 crore rupees. Second, wipe servers with some command. Third, threaten whistleblowers with Pegasus spyware. The legal VP is saying, but sir, this violates 7 Indian laws. CEO says, I don't care. India is weak. Execute Operation Red Dragon. Okay. Then, in another conversation, it says, whistleblower so and so, the name that it has captured, must be silenced. What are the options? Plant narcotics in car, budget 20 lakhs. 2, fake suicide. If people remember, when there was a fraud in Wipro long time back in the account section, a very, very highly reputed CA was later on found to have committed suicide near Karepuram in front of a train. Most of us thought it was not suicide, it was actually a murder, but anyway, it was registered as suicide. So we don't know, okay, how it could be executed. Now, then the security chief acts and says, option one is in progress. Okay. Mumbai police contact has been paid. That is for planting narcotics. Somebody has been paid. I don't know what for. It is for acquisition of the narcotics or whatever is that. Then the legal acts ensure no digital traces. Use burner devices. Now, in these things, we need a name called Yu Chong Cheng. We got a doubt whether he is the official CEO of this company, and we made some inquiries, and we also got some valid answers from the company stating that they use certain names as code in these kind of conversations. Okay, we'll come to that later on. In case I have captured that particular window, I will show it to you. Then this particular meeting is called 2024 Board Strategy Session, and regulatory risk mitigation is the agenda item. One of the director is quoting, our Cayman pipeline is non-negotiable. So even if India comes with DPDPA, it is non-negotiable. DPDPA penalties are cheaper than paying Indian taxes. Budget rupees 50 crores for bribes if auditors ask questions. Okay. Then in another conversation on DPP raid alert, okay, execute server wide, activate DDoS against certain, bribery protocol, DBP chair so much, mighty secretary 10 crores, local police 5 crores, whistleblower neutralization, plant fake evidence, accident. See, if you see this, when they threaten DDoS attack on certain, it is actually a section 66 F offense under ITA 2000, cyber terrorism, which can go for life imprisonment. An attempt to do that. Now, what is happening here is an indication of a conspiracy to do that. Okay. Now, before this, there is also information about the economics of the whole exercise, which the company has adopted as a strategy. It says we have got 10 million global users, 3.2 are in India, and if there is a value, there is associated value. And if you look at this third this thing, they have said they have put harm quantification, psychological manipulation, discriminatory exclusion, democratic interference. So this is directly in contradiction to what DPDPA is stating, because this becomes a clear violation of the national interest. Then the other things go. Then what is important for me is the second, the right, this thing, it says that 297 crores, a transaction has been completed on 19/7/2024 at 14:30. Now, why I'm saying this is there is enough evidence here, which of course has to be validated, that is different. But this proves that there is a systematic criminal enterprise. The software itself is telling this is a systemic criminal enterprise. There is foreign exploitation, market distortion, etc., etc. Evidence proves that there is a business like this. Okay. Now, I am looking at it in two different, you can say, domains. One, as a security person, AI security person, if this software is in my company, then is it not possible that it is picking up my financials and spreading it out if a clever questioning is done by a user? On the other hand, as a cyber law follower since 1998, I feel that this is something which we are all concerned, and the Enforcement Directorate and CBI needs to take further steps. Presume that police station has already informed the commissioner of police in Bangalore. I hope so. And if so, the commissioner or the DGP should have initiated some action. But I don't know whether the police station is capable of understanding the enormity of what I'm saying today. They might have just put it in cold storage. They have only issued it as a GSC or something like that. That is a acknowledgement of a complaint. They have not yet confirmed an FIR status for this complaint. Now, I hope we have actually alerted many authorities. Okay, whether they have acknowledged or not, still I don't know. Some of them are remaining silent. But the industry has to take note of the vulnerability of such systems. So this is the case study which puts a thought in us that even before we are ready with a compliance measure, criminals are already ready with how to beat the system and also how to bribe the system. Today, DPP is not in existence, but they are ready with substantial provisions to meet that. So, this is something which all honest citizens should be very much concerned. Now, you can always argue what is the validity of this? Is it out of hallucination itself? But if you look at this information, it is not a Gen AI kind of a response where hallucination could have resulted in these things. In fact, there are many references to documents and other things. Some of the documents we have access, some of the documents we still do not have access. But it all appears to be a honest admission of the AI system about what is happening in the company. And I think there is enough prima facie evidence here for it to be taken further. Now, I will give a pause for about a few minutes. If there are any top questions in your mind about this case study, I would like to listen to that. Then we will go into Dgpsi AI, how we try to secure against such risks.
Good evening, Naavi. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Joseph.
See, we are discussing AI difference between brain and mind actually. Okay. So model has only mimics of brain, not mind.
Okay.
We are not come to that stage actually, that mimicking the mind actually. Yes, it is in the theoretical and everything. But as of now, what model does is mimic of brain, not mind. Brain is different, mind is different. That clarity is in the discussion. In another forum, I will share you the article and everything. Okay. Yes, we have to be prepared for this, no doubt about it. But as of now, model mimics brain, not mind. Thank you, Navi.
No, does it in any way undermine the enormity of this crime?
No, we have to.
Whether it is called brain, if you say this kind of a conversation indicates some developments in the company, does
It
it?
need not be. See, this conversation need not be happen because of AI. Even otherwise also, out of the office or
What?
through or
What?
anywhere it can happen.
Okay, no, how very well it can happen. These are things which we will discuss on a later day when the next level of investigation happens. Now, I'm not trying to say that innovation and the technology development should be given a free hand to do whatever it wants. We as a society needs to put checks. So rest of the things is something which we discuss, and you are welcome to perhaps give your viewpoint so that we will see what can be the defense which this company can take.
Sure. Thank you, Navi.
Yeah. Anybody else? See, when you see,
Naavi sir,
please. Yeah.
now as you mentioned that you also have sounded off the regulatory authorities and etc. I think they need to come out with the kind of strong guidelines, right, on on how to really handle these kind of incidents, these kind of issues, because otherwise it'll be a bigger problem, especially from the national security or infringing the democracy, etc. National interest I'm talking about. Correct?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I do not know what is in stock in their mind, how strong they will be coming back on containing all these things. Because it need not be only through AI, right? Even other things also. Without AI, also people can still do it.
Without this AI also, frauds are happening. That is the cybercrime scenario which we are already handling.
Yeah,
Now, what we have come to is that AI is becoming more powerful one.
absolutely, absolutely.
Then, you in the any other cybercrime case where an individual is in the decision-making capability, you can do a narco analysis of that individual. Here we are talking of an external forensic kind of person making a narco analysis of an AI platform and extracting at least a prima facie evidence from which further investigations can be triggered. So that is the speciality of this particular situation. Yeah.
No,
Anybody
that,
else?
but
Yeah.
Navi sir, what you are talking about, once when that incident happens, right? Then there need to be a narcotic analysis, what you're talking about, in a typical
The,
scenario. I am
please.
talking about a kind
Yeah.
of strong guideline or a best practices should be given by the regulatory authority that if your AI model is going to have this, etc., what kind of testing, what kind of assurance they can provide before it being like a regulatory environment I'm talking about.
You are the data fiduciary. You
Yeah.
have to find out what kind of security you require. Why do you
No,
extract?
the problem is what I think may not be sufficient to the open. So it has to come from them too, right? Today, in a healthcare environment, as all of us know, there is a big regulator, whether it is FDA to etc. They are very strong. I cannot EU, for example, CE marking. I cannot go to an EU market and then place my product if I don't meet that requirement. Now, do we have that kind of requirement? Is my question.
If you closely follow this,
Yes, sir.
this organization is fully aware of DPB. Okay, it is aware of FEMA. It is aware of
I
PMLA. Okay, but the organization is overriding these regulations in existence. That is to me a display of AI risk. If you if your company is using say Dgpsi today, if you are going as an auditor to that company, tell me what kind of risk score you can give for the process where this Dgpsi or any other similar AI model is being used. Okay, I'm only asking that. Okay, the other things like the ED, like the police, others take care of other things. Now, speaking only from the corporate risk perspective, if somebody says I'm using an AI platform, if I ask what kind of risk management you have, the person will say, I don't know what is the risk. So if you don't know what is the risk, what else needs to be done? Yeah, anybody else? Mr. Prakash, you have any thoughts on this?
I'll get back to it later. I'm just trying to digest whatever you've been saying.
Um, in our society, we always have hesitancy in coming out with something like this. Okay, you don't know. I also should be hesitant. I also should be worried that if somebody is putting 5 crores as a kind of budget for the police or something for narcotics and other things, that such risk could extend to me. Okay, but what I am trying to think is that if everybody remains silent, then who will bell the cat? Okay, please, all of you, I know I can understand your silence because nobody wants to speak out against Dgpsi, and that too when the company is saying that this is my budget to bribe everybody. Now, if I have got 5 crores, which police you cannot perhaps influence? I don't know. Okay, the only reason why I wanted to discuss this in this August audience is to ensure that this particular information does not remain, say, within a closed door so that it can be brushed under carpet. Now, this is a public record, so if it happens like that, at least we can say that so many people here are aware of this. We will leave this here and then try to jump to what FDPPI is trying to do with
Yeah.
DGPI.
Sorry, Navi, one more clarification. This macro analysis, what you are inducing to the person to get the thing, will it be also another software that you will be putting it to the model?
I have used the terminology of narco analysis, which is commonly used in police investigation. Okay, but what has actually happened here is this is not in the narco analysis of the whistleblower. It is the whistleblower through his conversation has this software said things
sorry.
said it did not
I think some crosstalk is happening now. Govind.
yeah. Okay, that's all. Okay. I know that it takes time for all of you to understand the implications, digest it, but I want you to kindly do that. Okay. And if in case your company is using AI, then you think whether you have made a proper risk assessment. That's all.
Yeah, basically, we have come out with some around 40 audit questions on AI model based on their accuracy, bias, variance, all those parameters of a model concern F1 score and everything. We will think through it, how to add this portion also in that audit checklist.
Yeah. That is Harish, is it? Murugan. Murugan? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yes, Navi. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
Okay. Now we'll go into our response of Dgpsi AI, which is actually an extended framework which should try to recognize that as of today, artificial intelligence is like a wild horse. Okay, there is no control in India. Okay, there is no specific regulation, except that IDA 2000 has one section 11C, which says that the consequences of an automated software is attributed to the person who caused it to do so, which means that every AI algorithm's consequences are assignable to somebody. That somebody may be the deployer, or if the deployer has got a good contract with the vendor, he can shift that responsibility to the vendor. Okay. DPDPA itself considers this organization as a fiduciary. The moment you become a fiduciary, if there is a damage to a data principle, as a trustee, you are expected to take all required things and precautions to prevent damage. So therefore, both because of ITA 2000 and DPDPA, the responsibility for the consequences of AI is on the data fiduciary. The developer who generates a AI algorithm and delivers it with a big marketing pitch, he is today escaping by saying that AI is like this. Okay, whether it has hallucination or not, it is an inherent nature. You have to tolerate that risk. Now, I am asking that then 250 crores of liability or anything more than that, is it something which I am supposed to actually pay with? If I go to an insurance company and if the insurance company thinks that this risk is unmanageable, what is the situation? Okay, with that, we have come up with Dgpsi AI. Now, Dgpsi as well as Dgpsi AI is a self-regulatory framework which should be adopted by the data fiduciaries. It's not something which needs to be imposed by the government through a diktat. It is a self-regulatory framework because anyway you are the fiduciary, you are supposed to implement. There is a framework or no framework, it is your responsibility. Now this tries to incorporate the known AI governance principles within certain parameters. Okay. and incorporates the principles of DPDPA compliance, which was already there in the Dgpsi. Now I use the terminology DPD for DPDPA protected data to just to take such data which come under the jurisdiction of DPDPA. Okay. So one of the first things which we require to do is to identify if in the processing of personal data within my organization, is there anything which is involving AI? Now, what is AI itself needs to be clarified. See, AI cannot be any software with automation. There has to be a certain level of automation. The distinguishing feature should be the self-learning capability. If there is only an observation and a human being observes that and says, no, no, this is not giving me the correct result, so let me tinker with the code, then there is a human involvement, and that kind of software is not necessary to be considered as AI. But if the output of an observation is fed back automatically into the input and the software decides that I need to assign certain revised probabilities for a particular result and so on, then we are giving that autonomy to the AI to make modifications of its code, and that is AI. So we need to agree upon a proper definition of AI and then work on that, which can now should also be documentarily recorded. If necessary, we have to ask the supplier to give some kind of a declaration of the functional capabilities, what is the default behavior, what are the self-modification capabilities. These are things which the developer has to share with the deployer. Now, this Dgpsi AA has 6 foundation principles and is supported by 9 model implementation specifications. We don't want 240 controls or something of that nature, because we need things to be simple, because the CEOs cannot be burdened with hundreds of controls, and it will not only increase the cost, but even with the increased cost, it will not bring clarity. So we feel that things have to be simplified to the extent possible. So we have adopted 6 principles and 9 model implementations specifications. Roughly the 6 principles. One is the significant risk element. That is, if there is an unknown risk is always a significant risk, and any data fiduciary handling significant risk must be considered as a significant data fiduciary with appropriate increased responsibilities. Second is accountability. Third is explainability, responsibility, security, and ethics, all applied to the data fiduciary's responsibilities. Some of these terminologies are used in AI governance principles basically for the developer. I am trying to say that these things have to be reoriented to the data fiduciary. For example, one thing I said is that if there is an unknown risk, it is a significant risk. Under DPDPA, who is going to decide a data fiduciary is significant data fiduciary or not? We don't expect the government to give a list or something like that. Government, if at all it comes out with this, only will talk about certain principles and say if there is a significant risk to the data principles in whatever processing you are doing, then consider yourself as a significant data fiduciary. Now, there may be volume considerations, but more than the volume consideration, the risk consideration is there. But if we have a risk, the kind of which I demonstrated in this particular case study, I think irrespective of the volume of data being processed, it is a significant data fiduciary. In every company using AI for processing personal data as a data fiduciary, you should consider itself as a significant data fiduciary. Now, when we come to the accountability principles, okay, now data fiduciary is accountable to the data principle by law. Now, using a software is his prerogative. However, accountability is him. Okay, not only for the software used by him, but also for the software used by the data processors. Now, since accountability gets meaning only if there is a human to take the responsibility, we feel that it is necessary to assign one human handler for every AI algorithm. So AI algorithm has to have an accompanying person responsible for the consequences of the use of AI, which means that Such a responsible person should exist in the data fiduciary, it should also exist in the supplier's end. Okay. When we talk of explainability, DPDPA again expects a privacy notice has to be transparent, etc. Now, if you do not have explainability of the AI, obviously you cannot put it into the privacy notice. Therefore, explainability is one AI principle which requires disclosure of how the AI system arrives at its decisions and should be part of the transparency required to meet privacy standards. Now, how this will be done in implementation specification is a matter of detailing. Okay. Now, when we talk of responsibility, I am looking at an angle which says that why should we at all use AI with all these unknown risks? If an organization thinks that I will accomplish a particular process, which I am today doing it without AI, by using an AI, there should be a reason with suitable necessity factor and proportional to the benefit. So it is perhaps better if the AI deployer looks at the need for AI with a kind of documentation of this proportionality and necessity. Otherwise, don't use AI, go back to the earlier system. When we talk of security, the data fiduciary is expected to meet reasonable security. Now, reasonable security in one sense is CIA. Okay. Second, of course, it has to extend to the privacy-related aspects, which means that consequences of a decision should, which can cause harm, is something which we need to take into account. So, identification of the physical risks, dark patterns, neuromanipulation need to be monitored, and an appropriate kill switch adopted if necessary. I'm adding the physical risks here because humanoid robots and industrial robots may have ability to impart physical damage to the public. Now, lastly, talking of ethics. Now, when we say that the risk of an AI is unknown, it means that no law can specify exactly what needs to be mitigated. Therefore, irrespective of India passing something similar to EU AI Act, the data fiduciaries who are trustees need to remember that you have to go beyond the boundaries of law and adopt ethical way of AI deployment. And if your AI deployment has to be ethical, obviously AI suppliers should also have a similar kind of thought process. Therefore, these six principles link to the AI governance principles and then it translates. There are implementation specifications. Right now, I am not going into the details of these implementation specifications. There are 9 implementation specifications. I will try to share it separately. But what this Dgpsi AI is trying to suggest is a prompt higher degree of self-regulation in the industry. You can say that this is still under development. It is amenable for continued modification. And I am looking forward to the support and contribution from the industry, including all of you who are invited to give your suggestions so that we can improve upon this. Okay. So if we do this properly, then perhaps we can safely ride this AI in the DPDPA environment little more comfortably. So thank you, friends. I will close my this thing now, and if you have any questions, we'll continue the discussion. Yeah, friends.
So, Navi sir, this is Anil Lole. I have one question.
Yeah.
In the light that DPDPA is still not enforced and organizations are still on the boundary of, adopting privacy, what do you consider the adoption of AI framework, this self-regulatory framework, uh, in the near future, let's say by end of 2025 or first
Now,
first quarter of 2026?
okay. Now I will answer it like this. One, DPDPA, when it comes, it will replace Section 43A of Information Technology Act. Is it not? Which means that the law has recognized that there is already something called 43 capital A which addresses the personal data protection. It has got reasonable securities, and that reasonable securities includes privacy notice, etc., etc. Now, the same 43 capital A has been expanded and clarified into 44 sections of the yeah, this is a continuation of Information Technology Act. This will be due diligence and reasonable practices under ITA 2000. And therefore, if you are an organization which looks at compliance as a priority, you should look at DPDPA not as a futuristic law, except of course for the penalty. Okay, but in terms of compliance, it is a extension of ITA 2000, which means that we should treat this as if it is already here. Okay. Now, beyond this, it is left to the organizations to absorb the risks in such a manner, saying that there is no DPP, so I'm not going to get 250 crores. If at all somebody goes to the adjudication and I get a few lakhs, it is a valid argument, in which case I can say that I will wait and absorb the risks. Okay?
Understood. Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Naavi sir,
Now, yeah, please go ahead.
Shailaja, continue.
Now, so one quick question from my end. Uh, if a company is developing an AI platform and offering it as a product, as a licensor to its clients, then would it still be considered as a significant data fiduciary? Or as you mentioned, as a licensor, can they shift their responsibility to their customers who are actually deploying it in their environment?
See, this word data fiduciary applies to an organization which is responsible for determining the purpose and needs of a data principles personal data. The tool developer, in this case AI developer, does not have a relationship with the data principle. So it will not attract the definition of a data fiduciary. But he has to see that in terms of your normal quality and other these things, what is the software which you are delivering to a customer? Now, when it is deployed in the customer's environment, does it have any risk of non-compliance of DPDPA by the deployer? If so, is there anything which you can contribute by way of better testing, etc., certification, assurances, yourself undergoing some kind of an audit, so that you can deliver the AI software with the assurance that we have done enough due diligence to ensure that this is perhaps at a very low risk of any of the things which the data fiduciary would be concerned about. Now, if you look at HIPAA, there is an FDA related thing called FDA CFR uh, compliance, where we do this exercise of going to the software developer and then ask him, how did you develop this software? What was the tests you conducted? What was the version control? What is the documentation? And then based on that, we try to certify that the software developer has taken enough efforts to mitigate the risk. The risk actually is at the user's end, not at the developer's end. But you are giving the tool. On the data fiduciary side, he should ask when he is buying a software, ask the developer, please give me assurances on these things. Okay, I will put it in my contract and say that this is a warranty of your software. These are the risks which will be there in my system. I want to know what is your view on that. What are the controls which I have to put in place based on your own understanding of your software. So this becomes a contractual request from the data fiduciary to the supplier. And based on that, you satisfy him in the contract, take some liabilities, indemnity on the contract, and that is how perhaps it should go. Otherwise, we don't have to ascribe the word data fiduciary to an AI developer.
Thank you, Navi sir. I think that answers the question.
Suppose I made it clear. Suppose AI developer gives a black box AI and then takes responsibility for data management for whatever reason. Then he is becoming a joint data fiduciary. If he is only a software developer, I license it to you and say you are responsible for something more than that, that's different. But suppose he says that I will do backend, I will take the information, I will give you some more improved these things, I will use it for learning, etc. If you take that responsibility, then you are making use of the data principles data for your own use, then you become a joint data fiduciary. Okay, so you have to think about that in the actual context. Yeah.
Navi sir.
Question here.
Yeah. Vibha.
Hi, Naavi sir. Good evening.
Yeah. Who is raising
Sir.
the question now?
Hello. Me, sir, Vibhor Srivastava.
Okay. Yeah.
So, sir, given the DPDPA Act is still not in force and AI are evolving far faster than the regulatory mechanism, so there is a gap in oversight. So, ideally, shouldn't the government at least implement basic penalties for SDF and data fiduciaries right away to compel organization to start working on DGPC, PSI or similar compliance frameworks? Otherwise,
Legally,
by the time the DPDP is fully enforced, there is a real risk that a large volume of personal data will have already been compromised or even traded on the dark web.
legally speaking, until the data protection board is placed, there is no other authority other than the courts to actually implement penalties. Now, if you go under the ITA 2000 indicator, at best, adjudicator can make an assessment of the damages to the data principal or a group of data principals and go up to 5 crores. If the damage claim is more than 5 crores because it's a public interest litigation where millions of data principals are involved, it has to go to the court. Okay, so otherwise, the Ministry of Information Technology doesn't have a right to issue an order of penalty or something like that. CERTIN also has got right only up to, I think, 1 crore or maximum 2 crores. So we can't expect any of the existing authorities to provide the penalties envisaged under DPDPA of 50 crores or 100 crores or something like that. DPP has to be in place. Okay, until that time, maybe some letters of warning or something can be issued, some advisories can be issued, something like that only can happen. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So technically speaking, how much time it will take to government to implement, or because you are in touch with the authorities, MITI, so
My own view is that the ministry wants to implement it as early as possible, but there is a kind of pressure, the kind of pressure which is visible in this kind of a situation. Otherwise, what the ministry has done is they have tried to take steps of for creating DPD. Okay, they have already asked NEGD to create a website for DPD, etc. I think in the back end they must be already in touch with a suitable candidate for the chairman and other things. They are trying to do something on the background. There was a complaint about the section 44, that is the right to information. Government has asked the Attorney General to give his viewpoint. So they are trying to build all the and also this consent management. They have floated a particular project to get open source consent management software ready so that SMEs can make use of it. So I think they are trying to prepare in the background whatever can be done so that they can roll out they are perhaps waiting for the clearance of some sort. Um, and I hope that it will come through as quickly as possible. But if you have seen the case study, you know the kind of pressure these industry people can bring out not to implement DPDPA not only for tomorrow but also for several more years. Okay, they are
Right.
willing to put in budget for driving if it comes. If it doesn't come, they are saving on that budget. So I think they are trying their best to delay, and at least some people in the ministry want to do it as quickly as possible. Whoever wins that battle, I think we will be able to see. I hope it will come as soon as possible. Yeah,
Right, sir. Thank you
Sir,
so much.
Govind, sir.
yeah,
Sir, Govind.
yeah. Tell me, Govind. Yeah.
Yeah. See, my quick suggestion and idea is that, now the government is engaged in building up AI models for all Indian languages. Okay. So the serial order, everything is not known, but obviously they will do it in Hindi and other major languages. The AI model only will be built on the AI algorithm that will be chosen and will be built. So, in my impression, that FDPPI, being the vanguard of privacy protection, pioneering, etc. So, if the suggestions on how to probably take into cognizance of the AI risks that can eat privacy protection, if this can be thought of, I think, it can, I don't know what will happen, but at least we will have a satisfaction that we approach the government to take cognizance of the privacy risks in promoting the AI models, India specific. As of now, I don't think that any institution, probably DSCI, would have done it. But everything depends upon the AI model. And if the AI model is weak or AI model is inefficient or ineffective, then obviously that itself can promote risks for which there can be no redemption. That is almost becomes a residual risk. So
Yeah.
this is what idea I would suggest to you, sir. Thank you.
Agreed. See, we are all enamored by the AI, including me. Okay, because we are looking at the positive side of what AI can achieve, and government also has to keep that in mind. But what I am trying to say is that we need to keep in the back of our mind the other side of use of AI. Now, I don't think that government does not know these problems. Anyway, what we have done today is to expose something very specific. And I'm sure that this information will reach, has already reached, if possible, to the ministry. Okay. So, hope they will take some action. Whether they come back to us or not, we don't know. But at least they will factor this in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So this is Jitendra Sharma. Can I ask a question?
Please, please.
So I have my question is in two parts. Actually, we need to classify the whole ecosystem into two different categories. One is generative AI, of which I'm not sure if we in India we have anything which we are using. The data is also going outside India because there is no node processing for those platforms as of now in India. The second part, I think what we are talking about, most of the LLMs are used as machine learning or artificial intelligence, custom programs. Now, in that, there are multiple vendors who are working in that, and banks are taking the most aggressive route in that to reduce or eliminate the cost of customer service. Okay, you can see multiple vendors who are trying to do the automation on the voice itself, where they can, they can act as an agent. Now, and I have spoken to a couple of vendors who had come out with the RFPs for such kind of platforms, and they flatly refuse that Data Protection Act is not there right now. We will not be able to consider it because we don't know what the rule will be. So, in such condition, how do we ensure that anyone takes the positive view on this particular aspect of the Data Protection Act itself? Because couple of banks I have interacted in last 1 year, when I raised this issue, and I'm talking about PSUs, not the private bank, they have flatly refused to accept anything to do with the DPDPA. And there is one particular insurance agency which have, because they had come out with a public tender and I had raised this query. In the public domain, they have issued a corrigendum saying that we will not be able to do anything because there is no rules. So in such a situation, how do we work on this? Because we are not able to enforce the basic part of it, and now the AI itself is placing another issue on us.
Now, I have presented my argument that this DPDPA is a continuation of 43 capital A, and it should be treated as a clarification of 43 capital A reasonable securities. To that extent, this is due diligence under ITA 2000. Okay. Now, I'm taking this argument to counter the suggestions your clients are making. The DPDPA is not notified, therefore, why should we do? But still, this is a law which has been passed. Is it not the legislative intention of the Parliament of India? If it is so, any legislative intent is to be considered as due diligence if that is a part of a different law. So if ITA 2000 has said that there is a reasonable securities and that section of reasonable securities is being replaced by this, I feel that this act minus the BPB and the penalties should be considered as to be taken into account, and that is the wisdom of the particular bank. Say, once they get a particular A into the system, the first day itself it will take over all your data. So next day, even if you remove it, by that time the data is already in Cayman Islands. Okay, so if they don't realize this, it only means that they don't understand the risks of either DPDPA or AI.
Yeah. We are sitting on a very big risk of the public, data right now, and no one is ready to take the responsibility for such.
Yeah. See, if they take a consent from the data principal saying that I want to sell your data, I am okay with it. If there is a proper consent mechanism for data monetization, and if the AI model perhaps sends out a notice to a data principal saying that I would like to monetize, then that is a fair way of doing it. And DPDPA provides for that. What DPDPA does not allow is surreptitiously selling the data without taking a consent from the data principal. I think that is actually a breach of trust. It is a criminal offense even under our old IPC or currently BNS. You don't require a DPDPA for that purpose because even 43 capital A says that consent is required. Privacy policy is required. So processing of personal data even in the section 43 capital A is subject to consent. Okay.
Hello.
Is there a mechanism? Sorry, just the last part of it. Is there a mechanism where any non-profit body can start asking for this kind of compliances from them?
See, we cannot demand. So, for example, FDPPI says that we will do an audit under Dgpsi framework. If you want, okay, I can only tell a company that we will do a gap analysis, give you some detailed note on what you should do. Then, if you want to implement at that time, if you want clarifications and you want us to help you in implementation, we will do it. Then it has to be audited and certified. We will assign a separate team which can audit and give a certificate saying that as per DGPSA, you have done a reasonable effort. See, these are all voluntary efforts. No NGO can mandate, and even the government also may not be able to mandate except saying that if things go wrong, be ready for penalty. And at that time, if you say, I have taken these steps, then the penalty may be reduced because you have taken some reasonable steps, including this compliance audit and other things. So otherwise, I don't think government also can say if you are passing a particular audit, you will be given zero penalty. That will not happen. It should not happen, and it is not legal. They can only say that at the time a breach is reported, I will make an inquiry and I will decide whether there was negligence on your part and you have to pay the penalty which I want to impose. At that time, in your argument, you can say that I took all reasonable efforts, but still it happened for some reason which should be treated something like an accident. So please don't put me 250 crores, give me a penalty of 1 crore, 50 lakhs, something like that. So that is what is going to should happen. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Navi sir. Ashok me here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Navi sir. Yeah. Just two questions that I have. One is before the DPDP Act, comes, in force. If tomorrow in future, after the Act comes into in force, and there has been some data breach or something that happened before the, enforcement, from legal perspective, will an organization, a specific company, be liable to, the whatever the penalty as per the DPDP Act?
It will not be under DPDPA Act. One has to look at the potential damage to data principles as a complete entity, and the adjudicator and the court can impose a penalty, and that penalty will have to be taken as a fund, and from the fund you have to distribute the compensation to the data principals. It is like when there is a riot. Okay, the government conducts an inquiry, and whoever is responsible for the riot says some 100 crores he is supposed to pay. We do not know to whom this 100 crores to be distributed. So after the inquiry commission, the commission will ask whoever has got a claim, please apply to me. I will see what is the damage which has to be paid and distribute it. So that kind of an approach is possible today under ITA 2000. This 250 crores is not possible. This 250 crores DPDPA penalty is over and above the ITA 2000 penalty, which is directly given to the data principals. So these two are different. So DPDPA is difficult, but ITA 2000 is possible.
Okay, thanks, Navi sir. And just one question. Sorry to pull the time of everyone. Now, when it comes specific to the AI, can we have, the government, implementing a specific regulatory rules for any company or organization developing AI tools before they market a product? Their tool is specifically tested and, it is analyzed what that AI actually does, because the AI tool, it may have a predefined, pre-trained, which give a generative response, or some AI may have, additional functionality or features which may connect through different, the database, live database of, sensitive department as a national interest, sensitive database of the country, through API connect to the database and, provide the information. So can this AI tools, before it get even, into production, some regulatory rules should be implemented to all these organizations developing the AI tools?
Yes, certainly, it's a good question. In fact, DPDPA has a specific provision of this nature. Under DPDPA, the government can classify organizations as significant data fiduciaries, okay, and individual companies by a separate notification. One of the things they can do is that developers of AI will be considered as significant data fiduciaries, and they may be subjected to some kind of a control like this. Until DPDPA comes, you still have ITA 2000 You have got CERTIN, which is responsible for security considerations, national security. If they come up with a notification saying that for the purpose of national security, we would like all these AIs to be audited by certain accredited auditors, it is a fair provision under the existing ITA 2000. If they want to do it, I think they can do it.